Getting to the WWE is hard, really hard. While we criticise some performers who are under that roof, the truth of the matter is they all have something and if nothing else have worked their ass off to get there. Wrestling is really difficult and that's tripled when you're trying to get hired by the biggest company in the game. This means if you do get that opportunity, you should do your best to prepare, and there are ways to do that even if nothing is going to compare to the day itself. I can say from my own personal wrestling journey that being mentally ready is hugely important, but ultimately, if you have a big enough heart, you'll succeed regardless. Sometimes it's the trying that counts. Put yourself in the eye of the tornado and just see what goes down. And yes, that was some positive spiel. I'm Simon from WhatCulture and this is 10 essential tips for passing a WWE tryout. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to stay notified. Ding, ding, done. Number 10. Be patient, adapt and learn. At the Ottawa tryouts in 2006, wrestler Cody Steele's clean-cut persona was rejected because it simply wasn't what WWE was looking for at the time. He wasn't the right fit. In his own words, I was complimented on my wrestling abilities, but I didn't get the call. His approach to the feedback was to adapt. He recognized that his skills could only get him so far, and being outside of WWE doesn't mean being great in WWE. So he went in a different direction by cutting his hair, growing a mustache, and changing his whole gimmick. In short, Steele went full caricature, complete with a mullet and looking like someone that had just rocked out of a trailer park. He listened to what he'd been told, followed the guidance to adapt, and tried to come back with something else. Mr. Kennedy preached the same sort of approach, being fueled forward by a, if you get knocked back the first time, spend time finding out what WWE actually wants attitude. If you'd like a quote straight from Kennedy for motivation, here it is. Eventually I got to the point where I was confident and I knew what they were looking for. I went in there and I was hungry and I was aggressive. I see that stuff all the time. Guys will come to a tryout, they don't get asked to come back, and they don't swallow their pride and make the phone call and say, hey, can I actually come back? They're like, well, you know me now. If WWE want me, they can call me. And if that's your mindset, don't hold your breath. Number 9. Know your audience and listen to advice. Brand awareness is exceptionally important within WWE. It's why they use that term for everything. The Raw brand, the SmackDown brand, the NXT brand. They want to be able to brand whatever they can because in the modern world, it's a great way to market something, be that a show or a wrestler. Even coming from a famed wrestling background isn't enough if management can't see how you're going to fit into their structure. They need to be able to see a path filled with success and of course cash. A good example of this is Zack Zodiac, brother of Paige, whose attempt to make it in the WWE was documented as part of Channel 4's The Wrestlers Fighting With My Family, which yes, is now becoming a film thanks to one Dwayne Johnson. Though his sister was signed on the spot, Zack was told his physique was not up to scratch, so he bulked up, packed his bags and tried again the next year, which is more than admirable, but something else still wasn't right. He showed off his football hooligan gimmick which was well suited to England, but it didn't fly in the States, where soccer still isn't mainstream. It meant that he wasn't offered a deal despite the fact he could go in the ring. It's a harsh lesson to learn, but hopefully one that can help anyone with a plan to make it to the top. Number 8. Actually want it. Moose from Impact has been to many a WWE tryout, but has come out and said even if he had passed, he wouldn't have gone because he felt comfortable where he was. A very honest admission to something many wrestlers would kill for. It is a mindset other guys do have. The Stoner Brothers being another pair who found that maybe WWE wasn't for them. Dustin, for example, said during an interview after his own tryout that, we got up the next morning and Derek and I had a heart-to-heart and realised we were acting like marks. Our heart was in Oakland with Hood Slam, our students, and our school. We've been building this for 5 years, and not so we can go to WWE. Of course, you may not even realise this until you get the opportunity. Being able to admit it is probably going to alleviate any anxiety or worry you feel about the whole thing. But without that burning desire to make it to the WWE, you probably aren't going to get to the WWE, especially with the competition as tough as it is. Number 7. Respect your elders. The Young Bucks notoriously burned some bridges during a 2011 trial. As the story goes, the duo ended their tryout poorly by not shaking Booker T's hand. Booker responded by trashing them on Twitter, leading to a revolt that saw their characters called into question by a couple of legends in the shape of RVD, who called them cold and gold dust. In that respect, it's not all that surprising the Bucks turned down the chance to try out again in September 2014, but to be fair, both parties have since buried the hatchet and all seems well between them. But entering the WWE arena does come with some unwritten rules and laws, and it's probably better you know about them before you turn up. Your best bet is to be as respectful and nice as possible and treat everyone there as you yourself would want to be treated, which is just a nice life lesson all round, really. Smart the world, and hopefully it'll smile back. And if it doesn't, just leg it. Easy. Number 6, have friends in high places. It's not what you know, it's who you know. That may suck in the grand scheme of things, but damn it, it's true. We've all heard about networking, and as much as that may sound like going to some marketing meeting and sucking up to Bob or Linda, it could help, and the same is true when it comes to pro wrestling. There have been numerous examples of this throughout the years too, or at least ones that seem to be that way. Back in 2006, most people were surprised when Henry Godwin got a contract after what was, apparently, not the best tryout. However, Triple H vouched for the man, so all was good. You can raise an eyebrow at that all you want, but that is how the world works. And if you don't like it, there's always the Mr. Kennedy route into the situation. He has said time and time again he essentially knocked on the door for almost 7 years, continually throwing his face off whoever he could, so they started to know who he was. Kennedy would even accept shots as an extra, even though it only covered his expenses. Sometimes, he wasn't even used. Effort like that can go a long way, and if nothing else, you'll become known as someone that can be relied upon. Number 5, make sacrifices. The cliche of sacrifices gets thrown around all the time, but it is something that can pay dividends in the long run, mostly because doing so usually means you're entirely focused on your overall goal. Mike Kanellis has talked openly about the sacrifices he has made to become a wrestler and stated that the WWE tryout he went through pushed him harder than anything else. This, of course, is done to weed out who has the moxie to make it, and it's from that moment you see who really needs it. Our friend Mr. Kennedy has also talked about basically giving up activities just to chase WWE around, and Mickie James once did an interview where she admitted to giving up eating so she could afford tryouts. She'd drive 20 hours for one if there was a chance, and the result of that was often her having to balance out her finances by chowing down on a simple can of tuna for a week. Now, I do this at the moment because I love flipping tuna, but I'm not sure it would be as good if I didn't have the choice. Number 4, always cooperate. In November 2007, the Nasty Boys apparently sabotaged their final chance with WWE by being stiff in a dark match against Dave Taylor and Drew McIntyre prior to a SmackDown taping. Rumour has it they also responded poorly to the invitation to try out, despite being former champions, so straight out the gates, everyone was a bit wary of the pair. This carried on too because despite being told by WWE officials not to play to the crowd too much, they went and played to the crowd. They did it to such a degree they messed with the schedule for that night's show, and this is just a bad idea all round. It's understandable in a way that they would consciously fail to cooperate because that was kind of their gimmick, but it's also a valuable lesson in how to act should you be offered a tryout. It doesn't matter whether you were the biggest thing going or someone brand new, just cooperate and respect everything and you'll be in a much better place to move up the ladder. No one likes hierarchy unless you're at the top, but it's there for a reason. Just go with the flow and enjoy the ride. Or cause a fuss and smash some people up. That ain't gonna help much. Number 3, turn up at the right time. This one should be obvious, really. A tryout is basically a business meeting where you're gonna get thrown around, but you should still be punctual. Hell, you should probably be early. That goes for whatever role you're trying out for too, something Jim Mitchell found out the hard way when he asked Jim Ross whether there were any opportunities for employment as a manager. JR told him to send his resume to Steve Kern, who mentioned there may be a tryout in Florida that May, and then he didn't give any other details. Sadly for Mitchell, when he did turn up, he was apparently told in no uncertain terms that manager tryouts actually happened in January or February, and there was no opportunity for him. Not only did he never get a chance, he also seemingly lost his $1,000 fee too. Had he asked for clarification, this may not have been an issue, so it's always worth being a stickler for the details so no mistakes are made. Number 2, be prepared for hell. Pro wrestling is really hard, I can tell you that just from a beginner's point of view, but when you get to the WWE level, it's another world. Bodybuilder Matt Dawson had a tryout in March 2014, and these were his exact words about the experience. Hell might be an understatement. I thought I was gonna die at least 5 times, but I never quit or gave up. I couldn't believe the extent that they pushed us, and this was by far the hardest thing I've ever done athletically. After each and every training session, I honestly didn't know if I was going to survive. Every single muscle, joint, tendon and ligament was screaming. And that's from a heavily conditioned athlete. If that's not bad enough too, you've also got to try and be better than everyone else there, which is tough anyway, and even worse if you feel like you're about to keel over and stop being alive. Danger Boy Derek Wilde told a story of a guy in his tryout that clearly wasn't in the right shape and kept falling over doing squats. He did refuse to quit, yet more signs of admiration. The problem being, he couldn't even get a quarter of the exercise done, meaning the whole group had to start over and over again. They soon began to yell at him to just go home, and before long the atmosphere had turned, which is just what you need when you think your arm is about to fall off. Number 1, don't be racist. Goes without saying, right? I mean, that doesn't just apply to a WWE tryout, it applies to everything. Just don't be a racist, period, because that's not a good way to behave. And you should never tweet about it either, again, because it's not cool, but it's just dumb if you're doing that and trying to get a job with a company like WWE. It happens though and does cost many people opportunities they could have had otherwise. Just ask Jessica Havoc, whose deletion marathon on her old tweets wasn't quite quick enough to stop her homophobic and racial slurs, including one directed at Mark Henry. All this while she was just getting into WWE's good books. No amount of blaming on her unhinged ex who used to play on her phone was ever going to work, and neither did the public apology she then removed. Up until then, NXT management were quite impressed, then the roof caved in unsurprisingly, and now she's a morality lesson for everyone who wants a chance with WWE and for life in general. Again, don't be racist, just don't. Cheers.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe below, and if you're looking for more content like this, then try a few things that are floating about around my ears. Might be fun. I can't promise it though, but it might be.